I would do, you'll be really pleased to know, is I would call my homeopath. My classical veterinary homeopath, of course, because my animal would obviously be an existing client, and any change to anything going on with them, I would want to be in touch about. Excuse me, I'm so uncomfortable here. This cat is taking up all my chair.
And that's coming from a woman who would move her bed. She would move from bed to bed every few hours during the night to let other cats sleep with her during the night.
Yeah, absolutely. Or I go sleep on the floor with them. It's kind of what you do for a loved one, whether they're 2 legs or 4 legs, isn't it? But
absolutely,
the goopy paw, I mean, obviously, I would be trusting remedies to actually heal from within to help. But obviously, you've got the external process as well. And I guess the most important thing is to keep it clean. I can't remember, was it on a paw or a leg?
toe, yeah, toenail.
Oh, I mean, it may well be that you need to bandage something like it, and without being face to face with it, it's hard to know. And you're a vet and I'm not, but there's all sorts of different ways, and I think it might be efficacious to bandage it. On the other hand, sometimes when you cover a wound, it kind of slows down the healing process
and gets a little more goopy.
Yeah.
And what would you wash it with?
That's interesting. I like colloidal silver. I'd probably be using aloe vera. It kind of depends what I'm working with. I mean, even a very dilute mix of something like chlorhexidone can be very helpful, kind of treading on both sides of the fence, depending on what the wound's doing and how and if it reacts to various things. I recently had a wound care product, actually, that somebody sent me that they bought on Amazon and didn't want. And I used that for a wound, and it was really, really amazing. It was in like a spray can.
Ah, that sounds good.
I don't remember the ingredients, but it was very good to be able to get to an open wound exactly where it is and just spray around it. I really like that.
So thank you. Good ideas. I would also add in, maybe if it's goopy, calendula, put in water, calendula and rescue remedy in water when you're rinsing it off to clean it off. Dr. Jeff?
No, I would just second what you said. Definitely, homeopathy was the hypericum digits that are super sensitive. That may help it heal faster than anything else, but I would use the aloe vera topically as well and keep it clean, with like the calendulas, awesome, peroxide's awesome. And why don't we move on, Dr. Christina?
So the next one is we're adopting a Shih Tzu, and this Shih Tzu has its tongue hanging out. So I can't say without looking. Maybe they're missing teeth. Maybe it's in between teeth time. I don't know how old the cat is. The dog is. So it may or may not get better because it may or may not be a vital force imbalance. So definitely this is the time when you're starting with a new puppy that you want to be sure you've got a holistic veterinarian you're working with. And if you're a member of the Holistic Actions Academy, you'd be able to post on the forum pictures of that tongue and open the puppy's mouth and take pictures of the mouth. And of course, that's one thing. We want to train all of our animals to let us do things like that. So it's a great thing to start doing that when they're young. So if you're a member, post. If you're not, maybe look at joining and becoming a member, as that's one of the benefits. And if you have a holistic veterinarian, ask their opinion, because they can actually look in the mouth and see what's going on. Nip asks, her cat has rhinovirus or herpesvirus. This is a cat that's 13 years old. So it certainly depends on the symptoms. Nip, you want to unmute yourself and just briefly say what's concerning you at this point?
Have I done it?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Oh my goodness me. Thanks.
Sure.
Okay, so yes, rhinovirus. So she's 13 years old. She's got rhinovirus. I understand it's same as herpes virus.
What are her symptoms? What is bothering you about it?
When it shows up, it's off and on, off and on. And when it shows up, she has running eyes. She has very low energy. She's just dragging herself around the place. And it seems that she's quite stressed.
Okay.
When
So
it
it's
takes
something
place.
so it's
She-
something
she-
that comes and goes. What makes it go away? Are you doing drugs or a holistic approach?
No, because the vet said that the drugs, like if she's in, yeah, the drugs, she said drugs don't work. She said this is just in her genes and she's going to have it all her life. And maybe she passed it on to her kittens. And this is just, that's that.
Well, the good thing is that genes definitely pass on traits. However, the good thing is that we have something called epigenetics. And are you a member of Holistic Actions?
Not yet.
Okay, well, go to holisticactions.com and go to the 101 Fundamentals Pet Health 101 class and read that class. That will give you the basis of changing the epigenetics, which may decrease the symptoms, the frequency of symptoms appearing, and even completely get rid of them. And so there's a lot you can do on your own to do that, including diet and avoiding vaccines and toxins and increasing exercise and happiness protocols and all sorts of stuff you can learn. If you're afraid of getting overwhelmed, then your next step would be to find a homeopathic or traditional Chinese medicine veterinarian with whom to work. And there's an article we have called, go holisticactions.com/select. And that read the whole article and then go to the websites, and that will help you find somebody to work with. It is definitely treatable and can be managed and sometimes even completely disappear. And I'm sure that Gail Pope, when she was adopting cats of 16 and older, had kitties come in with runny eyes that completely went away and lived to be 28. Right,
Yeah.
Gail?
That's absolutely true. And I think, again, it's the holistic healing approach that really helps in these kind of situations, because when you need to go deep into healing, well, to me, I was kind of, actually, I don't know if everybody knows that I was brought into the world of homeopathy, kicking and screaming, actually, by a certain lady called Christina Chambreau. And that was many years ago. And I thought she was completely stupid. It was total voodoo. However, after a miracle of healing, I kind of started to change my mind. And so the years have rolled by, and it's my passion. And notice I don't treat animals myself, because I learned very early on that it may be a passion to use it, but I need a professional to guide me, because years and years and years of training don't necessarily make you the best.
And for several of thank you, Gail. So definitely any condition it's possible to heal any condition. Now, here's a quick one, because Lauren keeps asking this almost every time we have a question and answer session. So let's see what Gail has to say to this, because neither Jeff nor I have anything new to add to it. What would cause a healthy cat that has normal blood work to have spiky hair, spiked and hair at the base of the tail flaring? There is a bobcat lurking, and the cat's not able to go out as much as normal, and diet changes are all occurring. But this has been going on for a while, and she's really concerned about this spiky hair at the base of the tail. Have you seen that, Gail?
Spiky hair as well. And interestingly, I recently adopted a dog. I'll pick him up later, maybe. And there's a photograph of us together both with really spiky hair. However, I think, oh gosh, I've lost my train of thought. Remind me.
The beam is good. The cat's good otherwise. It just has this spiky hair at the base of the tail.
Right. So this is, to me, it's fear-based, it's neurological. It's a normal response. It's like a fight and flight response to something. So, I mean, in all honesty, if I'd exhausted all the different natural routes to bring back balance.
Whoops, you just muted yourself by accident, Gail. Your last words were, if I had exhausted all the holistic routes.
Then, and I mean, I guess this is a holistic route, but knowing, as I would be thinking anyway, that fear was at the root of all this, I'd probably be working with an animal communicator, medical intuitive, to actually help with this fear balance, but also practically just looking at what's scaring the cat. You know, what can I do to alleviate the stress caused by, you know, it's like hyperactivity that you see, you know, when cats wrinkle all their fur up, and you know, it really, there's always a something at the base of it, and if you can't find out what it is, then maybe turn to somebody who can.
Thank you, Gail.
But Gail, or actually in addition, Gail, you answered indirectly Nip's question about the viruses, Lauren's question about protection from the respiratory virus, because the stress that you mentioned, Nip, that comes along with the viral symptoms, the stress is the underlying cause for the symptoms. So stress is an imbalance in the energy flow in the body. So if you address the stress and the energy directly, the body becomes better able to, it's less susceptible to viruses, better able to resist the viruses. And that's the same case, Lauren, for the respiratory virus. You know, it's the old game of what's more important, the virus or the inner balance? And you know, it's well accepted that the inner balance is more important than the germ most of the times. And in the case of your kitty cat, by far the stress is, you know, the spiky hair is a result of the stress either staying in or the bobcat. But it's well, I mentioned the stress stopper flower essence because that will obviate that kind of symptom and a lot of other symptoms in kitties and dogs and people and any living being. And
Okay,
I better
so
not.
we have several people. Trudy and Francine have questions right up your alley, Gail, which is cancer with both of them, and wanting to know. So what I'd love to have you do is just briefly talk about your hospice class that's available to people on Holistic Actions, or they can also, if they're not a Holistic Actions member, they can get it. Can they buy it at Holistic Actions, Dr. Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, I'd love Gail to answer Francine's question about those. So her older cat who is in the transitional process doesn't have cancer, but is 18 or 19 and is comfortable and happy. And she wanted to know what physical signs might she observe as she follows those transition.
Which of course would be in the course. So that's why I want to make sure you let people know about the course and what's there. Because Trudy is also wondering about pain issues. How do you know her dog has a tumor by the tail, by the rectum, and she's been licking her abdomen a little bit. So she wants to know, how do you tell if there's pain or not? And of course, the communicator is another good idea there. But go ahead, Gail.
Oh, wow, where do I begin?
With your course.
Oh, no, because it's easier to just talk about individual.
Okay.
I'd love to sell the work that I do, but we're not here for that. So I'll skip on by that until we have time. And anyone knows how to get me at Brighthaven or via Holistic Actions or via the Animal Hospice Group and read more. So remind me, Jeff, let me go back to the first question.
It's Francine, and it's a 17-year-old cat.
Is this Zozo?
Yep.
Zozo, yeah.
I think
not eating or drinking.
So as I'm reading, I'm very familiar with everything that I'm reading. The words that stand out to me at the moment is now resting comfortably, lying close to me. So that answers one question, because I think whenever I'm talking to people, well, let's face it, we've gone back to the fear thing. As humans, we have grown up, most of us, not all of us, but most of us have grown up fearful of death. What happens next? Is there a next? Is it a brick wall? You know, there are so many fears that we all hold because of the dying process, because whether we believe we've already experienced it in another lifetime, we haven't experienced it now, so we don't know what it feels like. Consequently, when a being who we probably love more than most people is nearing the end of life, it rises up, and obviously we want to do our best. And part of that is to take care of ourselves first, to be in the moment with both ourselves and with the animal. And I think for me, it helps a lot to put myself in the position of the animal and work from there. If I wasn't eating, if I wasn't drinking, then I would be looking at what would I want? And some, you know, not eating, not drinking are both very normal things. The appetite one of the symptoms of dying, one of the classic ones, is that the appetite starts to decline. The thirst may go up or down. I mean, the appetite may go up as well. It varies, but there are no set rules in the dying process, other than, unless it's an acute incident, it's a slow winding down of the physical. And very often by looking at the world of human hospice, human end of life, we see it's pretty much the same trajectory.
Yeah.
If there is a symptom, then we're working with that symptom to help keep this balance for as long as possible, so that the source, the spirit, the part of the being that is, can peacefully leave that body. But, you know, it really is, it's a journey about love, being in the moment, and support. And again, support for ourselves, so that our fear can start to release itself. So the more I guess it comes down to education too, because we know that as humans, we fear death because we don't understand it. So it's the same situation when you have a beloved animal. The more you know about the situation they're in, which is why these meetings are so wonderful, because people get to learn a little more, and it decreases the fear, and then they're able to help at a different level. I meandered a little bit in that answer, I know, but all the symptoms that Zozo is showing are normal. And I think
excellent, Gail. And how do you tell if they're in pain? A tumor from a lump.
I would say
you need to worry about it.
If you're not seeing symptoms of pain, you actually don't have anything to treat. And pain is something that is very broad range. I could be in pain now and not showing it. I could be in pain doubled over and like, oh my God, excuse me, it hurts. You know, there are so many levels. You could have the same pain as me and not feel it. I may feel it really badly. So, you know, pain is such a difficult thing to work with, but depending on the being, depending on your knowledge as a mother or a father, if you're in doubt, then I would say treat it. And if you don't see any result, I mean, when I say treat it, we're beginning with homeopathy, we're going to all the tricks in the book. We could go to a conventional medicine. We can go to a holistic medicine like CBD. But if we treat what we believe is there and we don't see a result, maybe there isn't pain. But that really helps us in the trajectory of, again, working through our fear. Oh my God, I can't bear it if he's in pain. So let's work towards making sure. I don't know if that helps at all.
Oh, I think that's a grand answer, Gail. One of the challenges of these is we have so many questions that we try to answer. Well, why did that happen?
That was Allison muted.
Okay. So I'm going to move on. That was great, Gail. Thank you. I'm going to do a couple of quickies. Linda asked about tartar on the gums, and several others on the teeth, and several others talked about that. Liv asked about fleas, and then there are questions about vaccine reactions from vaccines. All of those will absolutely be answered if you go to holisticactions.com and do the 101 course. The key for tartar is feeding big chunks of meat or meaty bones so that they actually have to go, and that often will help clean the teeth. We'll be having a speaker next year, actually, but the product is Teeth, T-E-E-F. And there are products out there that can sometimes help with tartar on the teeth. And having tartar on the teeth is one of those clues that your animals are not energetically balanced, and keeping a journal can really help track those symptoms. And then Yvonne has long-haired dachshund, and Jeff, think about this one, has a long-haired female dachshund that has rough, dry skin under all the legs. Antibiotics, antifungals haven't helped. I would be looking for other symptoms, and I'd be a little concerned about maybe, I hate to jump to something like this, but it makes me think about Cushing's disease a little bit, especially in a dachshund because of the breed. You're using homeopathy on your own. And as Gail said so accurately, Gail was wonderful with acute homeopathy, but what she was particularly good with she had over 90 cats at one point, and you wouldn't have thought there was more than 10 in the house. I was like, what? You can't have that many in here. It doesn't seem like it. And she was excellent at tracking all of the symptoms. So she would record the early warning signs of illness, which you'll pick up in the 101 course. And one of them is tartar on the teeth, for instance. And you'll also learn how to go back to when this itchy stuff developed and see what was going on at that time. Was there a change in diet, change in bedding? Did you start using a memory foam mattress, which I've now heard is not good for people or animals to use memory foam? Did you change laundry detergents? Was there something that might have triggered this under the arms? And then also look for any other symptoms like drinking more, urinating more, exercise intolerance, anything like that. And because you want to use homeopathy and it's not been responding to homeopathy by you or conventional medicine, I'd get a homeopath. So that would be, and I know you can't, if you need to type in, you can type in if you have more on that. And then I did a whole post in the chat on vaccine reactions. Several have had to get a rabies vaccine, one because a fox was there and another for another reason. And one had bad reaction to it, having trouble getting up with it. So basically, anytime rabies, you need to stay legal. You just do. And unless you can get an exemption from a veterinarian, or unless your holistic veterinarian is working carefully with you in ways that feel more comfortable to you about giving the rabies vaccine. And so vaccine detox is a essence combination that you can get at Jackson Galaxy. And again, that's typed in the chat. And if you give it the same way you do any essence, by giving a lot of it all the time, you can give it in the water, you can put it on their coat. Any of the flower essence articles have approaches for using it. And that can often help, but also doing everything else to support the immune system, to support the vitality with happiness and playfulness and exercise and all of those things. So that's really important. Dr. Jeff, did you see the one by Lisa Dolan?
I did, and I
Okay,
actually
good.
replied to Lisa.
Okay, good.
Actually, yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that was in there. Alta, what can we do naturally for a dog that has congestive heart failure? As I said earlier, and I know you missed it, is that any condition can be healed with homeopathy, Chinese medicine, or other energetic healing approaches. And for example, there's a book called Homeopathy, What to Expect by Ed DeBuchler. And in it, he has 101 cured cases with homeopathy. I really recommend you all get it just to see what's possible. And one of those cases was an old dog, gun dog. These are European cases, an old gun dog that showed up on these people's step. No idea how old he was. Lived with them for 6 months and was absolutely fine, although he had a ton of peculiar behaviors. And suddenly he had a week of total exhaustion, exercise intolerance, panting, coughing, went to the local vet, who happened to be a homeopathic vet. X-rays showed major congestive heart failure. The vet said, you know, he'll probably have to stay on this homeopathic medicine the rest of his life. After 2 doses, and for those of you who are homeopaths, it was like a 6C or a 12C. After 2 doses, all of the dog's symptoms totally resolved, and he was fine for at least the next year, and they didn't have follow-up after that, or the book got written, so we didn't have further follow-up. Is every case of congestive heart failure curable completely? Not necessarily, but almost all of them can be managed. One of the benefits in the member section is how to do a home heart physical. Listening to doing the capillary refill and listening to the heart and the lungs. And so anybody whose animal has heart problems, and just in general, to be able to do that when they're physical, when you're doing a physical on your animal, would be great to learn that. So that's one of the things to do. And then diet. So there were a couple of diet questions, like from Verena. And the main thing to do to keep animal, and I love it that a lot of you are here with young animals. That's so important. Please go to take the 101 course, buy some books on holistic health, become a member of Holistic Actions, get support, get now, when they're healthy, when they're young, buy pet insurance so you can do the expensive diagnostic tests that might be needed in 10 years. Right now, get a holistic veterinarian, maybe one locally, maybe one that you're working with virtually. Those are really important things. In terms of diet, feeding a wide variety is good, rather than when I hear a raw diet, I think of somebody buying a commercial raw diet and feeding that same diet once or twice a day. That would be like you getting Amy's chicken pot pies and eating that twice a day for the rest of your life. So even if you're going to buy commercial raw diets, then you want to, and this may not be for you, Verena, but it often happens. If you're going to be buying commercial raw food diets, rotate them, not just within that company, but try out different companies and feed a lot of fresh food. And mushrooms are excellent, but you don't want to overdo the supplements. You want to get most everything from fresh food. Supplements, spirulina, or spirogreen, mushroom mix, those are whole supplements, so that's good. But there's no one right one, and you don't want to stick on the same thing forever and ever. Okay, so Violetta has a 9-month intact male kitten with calicivirus treated homeopathically for 6 months. So, and still has sneezing episodes. So a couple of questions would be, is your vet really a homeopathic veterinarian? Because there are veterinarians who use homeopathic medicines, but they are not trained. Find out if they're certified by the Academy of Veterinary Homeopathy. Did they take a long homeopathic course? Have they done other studies? Do they come to conferences? You may want to switch homeopaths. I do pet health coaching. I don't treat animals. Dr. Jeff does. So I could help you figure out, do you need a new vet? Do you need a new approach? And it just may be you need to be a little more patient. Although with a 9-month-old, I think you should be making a little more progress there, but that's just my thought. But you need to also be, I already know, you say he's on raw food. I'm assuming it's the same cat. And for him to be drinking a lot, there's protein in the urine. So again, if this is the same cat, or even if it's the second one, you do need to be working with a good homeopathic veterinarian. So you may want to have a frank conversation with your homeopathic veterinarian about their training, about what they think is going on. And they should be able to explain to you what's happening. Hopefully that makes sense. You guys can respond, and just say in the chat, or even pop on for a minute and say, yes, I do understand. Some animals, just like some people, do drink a lot. But I'd be a little concerned with that. Dr. Jeff, you too? He's on a raw food diet and drinks a lot.
It depends if I would be concerned or not. Yeah. There's really not enough info for me to answer that, because I think you were answering Violetta's question, right? Because Violetta
Yes, Violetta
wrote that
Yep.
her vet is certified by the AVH.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I think what I would amend that to is more, are they well trained? Are they experienced in integrating? Because there are homeopaths, and that's all they do is homeopathy. They're not looking at, like, it would be difficult for them to answer the question that Dr. Christina recommended you ask about what's going on. Because what's going on is both physiologic and energetic combined. And so you definitely want to be working with somebody that can share with you the best of both worlds.
Thank you. And it again, also, homeopaths sometimes have blinders on. I had cases where I wasn't making any progress, and I would refer them to another homeopath and say, how would you take this on? Sometimes it'd be the same remedy I was prescribing in a different potency would cure. Other times it would be they took a whole different look and prescribed a different medicine. So it just may be time to think about a shift at that point. Riley asks about a Bernese dog with discoid lupus and sores on his face. So definitely whole food diet, keep doing that. E, B3, and CBD is good. I'm not sure that's any of that is curing the underlying energy field imbalance. So great that you're a new member, Riley. Thank you. And be sure you do the 101 course and then search on immune problems in the forum and in the member library. And also, because this is a chronic condition, or could be, where you have to try different things, you might consider one of the free member benefits, which is downloading the Healthy Animals Journal. And that may help you track things. But the key for everybody, and I'm not sure I've been clear about it yet, is we have an underlying energy field imbalance, which produces all symptoms. Symptoms aren't caused by a virus. They aren't caused by something external. They trigger this energy field to go out of balance. And to try to get back in homeostasis, it produces symptoms. So in addition to things like whole food diet, energy, happiness, E, B3, CBD, things like that, even with excellent beam, you still want to be addressing specifically the energy field with good Chinese veterinary medicine or homeopathy, or sometimes these amazing energy healing approaches that just aren't, they're good when they're in somebody's hands that's good, but they're not reliable enough for us to say, okay, everybody go out and do scalar wave, or everybody go out and do web, whole energy body balance, or everybody should go do Bill Bingston. They work miracles sometimes and really do deeply cure, but they're worth looking at and using in addition. They don't hurt. So you'll find a lot of that on the website as well. Do you see one you can answer quickly, Dr. Jeff? I'm just scanning. This was a long one.
Guess I wanna consolidate along the different, just what you said, along with all these different things that you can be doing. Everybody can be doing the free 101 course, which will give you a basis in all the stuff that we're talking about. But also, in addition, there are two things that we will help with heart disease, that will help with cancer, that will help with the viruses, and that is as much, actually I like the acronym CHE, as in CHE, because chi is energy, the energy flow, but C is connection, H is happiness, and E is engagement. And the way to do that, the easiest ways that are actionable are sniffing. So the more sniffing that you can promote your sick or healthy young or older dog or cat to, the better. And if you can get outside and do it in nature, it would be even better, because we know that the energetic, emanations from the ground, from the earth, are also healing. And those actually would combine the two things, sniffing and nature. So they can just get out, lay in the ground. That is healing in and of itself, but a sniff walk, a self-engaged, you're wearing a Let Animals Lead shirt, right? Stand up, Dr. Christina. Dr. Christina, can we see your shirt? Just that's what you want to be doing on your sniff walk, is just let your pup lead, let your kitty lead. So that's just my simplification of getting the
Sounds
energy
good.
balance.
And again, the two places to go, just to double, these are free. They're for everybody. Go to the holisticactions.com and go to the 101 course, do holisticactions.com/select. Kim was asking about homeopaths in the Boston area. And so you go there to find that. I would suggest Margot Roman in the Boston area. She has multiple modalities available. Hyperbaric chamber, ozone, micro fecal transplant, incredible amount of things. So definitely that would be one, but everybody can go to Select to help find a vet. And then also I can help you find a vet if you pay for a coaching session with me, which will move you to the next session, to the next level, or again, become a member. Because you get a free consult for 15 minutes to answer your questions with Dr. Jeff, myself, or who else do we have on? Okay. Alice, a blocked cat. He's on raw and canned food. Yeah, Medicus diet is, we actually had, Alice, if you're a member, check out Chris Bessent, Bessent. Dr. Bessent spoke to us once or twice on diets, and her special diets are quite good. Feeding a fresh food diet maybe is even better, and she agrees on that. But you don't need to continue things lifelong if you're addressing the underlying energy field imbalance. So, Gail, I bet that, and this is to answer a lot of people's questions as well, I bet that you had cats who came to you where you had to start by giving a lot of supplements or medical treatments, drugs even, and then as their energy fields improved, you were able to give fewer and fewer treatments as they went on, right?
Yeah, well, actually, you're summing up this tale that is sitting beside me, because he's a more recent adoption in our family, and his has been an awful journey for him as well as for us. He was, I adopted him from a vet clinic where he'd been the clinic cat for, I think, 12 years. They weren't able to find an adoptive home for him because he was constantly getting blocked, constantly having stones, crystals, obviously, and his life was just, as far as he was concerned, perfect, wonderful life. But as far as they were concerned, it's like he was hit by a truck when he was a kitten. And so his back, this tail is rigid. It sits at 90 degrees from his body. His back end is fused. So, hence there were internal problems. The clinic that I took him from is a holistic clinic. They're wonderful, wonderful people. But they weren't using homeopathy. And so we've had an amazing journey with him. He has had surgery along the way, and we work with classical homeopathy, obviously. I introduced chemotherapy to the mix. And since then, we've been able to work with the inflammation in his bladder, which was like a lump of leather. I express his urine. His stools are working wonderfully now. He can't eat raw with bone. And so I feed him raw and I add calcium, and that worked. So I think you have to be ingenious. You have to do what's right for you and the animal. It's a partnership. It's a transfer of energy. Happiness breeds healing. Tears are cleansing and they're healing. So it's a balance of every single part of energy. I can ramble on about it for a long time, but
that's great. That's great. Thank you very much. I start reading while I'm listening to you at the same time. Anal glands. Anal glands, it's like one of the things you need to learn to treat, or you need to learn to manage. When their energy field is balanced, they will not have any problems with their anal duct getting blocked and their anal sacs filling up and getting large and painful and needing to be expressed. If they are that way, you can hot pack them yourself with some calendula and rescue remedy or stress stopper in the water, and hot pack them, hold it on and keep dunking it so it stays hot about 5 minutes. Do that 2, 3, 4 times a day. And that will often help loosen them up and open them up. But it's one of those early warning signs of internal imbalance, that the energy field is just a little out of whack, that it keeps producing these anal symptoms. Sometimes it can be what they're eating, but not usually. Good question on pet insurance. I don't have a particular recommendation because it changes every year. Unfortunately, you have to do the research, but there are, and it's not in my mind right now, maybe Dr. Jeff, you can type it in. There are people who continually sort of update that. We've had one person speak for us. Our members get a talk every Monday night, and one of our speakers has been on selecting insurance. But the main thing he said, the main 2 things he said was get it early and look for ones that do give you some holistic coverage, but they're different types. Some people do 2 things. They get pet insurance that just covers emergency medical and diagnostics. And then they start a pet savings account where they save up their own money for things that are more ongoing and not, tens of thousands of dollars. So again, no one right answer. And I want to really thank those of you who are familiar with holistic for answering a lot of these questions in terms of foods and types of vegetables and things like that in the chat. So that really it's really a community. Kim, there are classical homeopaths out there. There's about a dozen at least veterinary that will work by phone. And even in Canada, there are ones. And again, Violetta, if you go to holisticactions.com/select, the websites that are there will help you find one even in Canada. So again, Julia Sky, same thing. Read the whole article, please. It's really important in order to do that. Jeff put in for the AVH, but that's just some of them. It's not all of them. So you may have you may have other ones that are available for you. So I would go both to our article Select as well as to the AVH, which certainly has great ones, and we do the certifying of veterinarians. And tongue sticking out, that was the original question in a puppy, and it could be neurological, but it's unlikely. I mean, a lot of dogs do this little tongue sticking out. A lot of the smushed face dogs, it's just the way they are. And so it's not a complete issue. Chris, the best thing with teeth, good, not suggesting, do not do Hill science diet, period, for anything. The only thing prescription diet, science diet is good for ever is there is one of their canned foods that if you have a cat or a dog, who is not eating at all, and you've tried everything, baby food and homemade stuff, AD will sometimes get animals eating again, but that's the only one I would recommend. So again, I think you've heard enough, Chris. You need to go to Select. I mean, you need to read the 101 course and feed big chunks, the biggest chunks you can. And where you buy, oh, that's great to buy this t-shirt. This is by the Reiki, oh, sugar. Jeff, do you know the name of it? It's on the back.
Sarah.
There we go, Sarah. Shelter Animal Reiki Association.
And the link is in the chat.
Oh, good. And they would love you to help support them on that. Because one of the things that's wonderful about Sarah is they encourage everybody who gets trained in Reiki to go sit in shelters and offer Reiki to the animals, and it increases adoption rates phenomenally. So, Dr. Jeff, do you have an idea for Sophie? Oh, no, it wasn't Sophie. It was VIP. It was above Sophie's. Shell Norton. Our rescue uses the VIP medication not approved in the US. Don't know about that one. Do you?
I don't know. Uses it for what?
It just says, do you have some holistic way to support these cats during the 84-day treatment? Shell, I would, you need to be talking with somebody who's a holistic vet where we don't have time enough to ask you enough questions to figure out what's going on with that.
It may be FIP treatment that we're thinking about, and the best way is gonna be, it's going to be
FIP, not VIP. I got it.
Yeah, it might
viral
be
infectious peritonitis. Oh, got it. Okay.
engagement, love, petting,
Fresh food.
It will all help.
Slow petting. One of the people who spoke to us talked about that it's very healing to be sending the love and petting this slowly, if the animal will tolerate it. But as slow as the animal will tolerate can make a huge difference in lowering the stress levels. And doing Reiki would be awesome because that would decrease the stress. Flower essences, all the flower essences from any of the companies can be used if you're working with a rescue. And I would get a homeopath on board. Gail, we had one cat live to be 34, many cats to live in their late 20s and 30s, and that's because she was working with a team of homeopaths virtually. And they do it, it can be done whatever country you're in. So that's definitely good. IBD, one of the things I would do is a probiotic called Mito Max, MITOMAX. And that's just has had some super success with, particularly with IBD. But again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. You want to treat the underlying energy field imbalance that's causing the IBD while you're supporting otherwise. And definitely it can be healed, but you will need some professional support on that. You won't be able to do it just on your own. Brenda, yeah, we've talked about teeth they aren't removed via homeopathy. What happens is if the energy field is out of whack and stuck, and so the teeth are stuck, if we find the homeopathic medicine that fits the whole animal, including a symptom of teeth dentition not happening properly, then the vital force gets healthy again and the teeth just fall out. So that would be working with a homeopath, or if you've been studying homeopathy, this is one that you could certainly try a remedy, see what happened. You could wait a little bit, then try another remedy because it's not critical. Barbara, so there's some thinning here in spots where the harness is. I think I would try for a different harness. Dr. Jeff, any other ideas? She said where the harness is rubbing under the shoulders. That was an way earlier post, that it was causing some thinning of the hair. If there's nothing else going on with coconut, if she's fine otherwise, and it's only thinning in that spot, I would experiment with some different types. That's the best I could do with you, and you know how to get hold of me. Okay, thank you, Brenda. Homeopathy, what to expect. Okay, you got that. Yeah, so that cat definitely, NIP, NLP definitely needs to be working with a good veterinarian, and you got it. Again, Alta, go to the select, and you've got a recommendation there for Doc Jody, and there are plenty there, but off the top of our head, we don't have every veterinarian for every city in the US and Canada. So you do have to go to the select and do your work. Sometimes we just happen to know somebody in those areas. High blood pressure. So rather than high blood pressure, you have to find out why that's happening. That's not usually a condition just by itself that just pops up. So as with all older animals and any animals, you want to be things we've talked about, happiness protocol, working. I would switch to a holistic veterinarian because of that. Colitis and I forget, Dr. Jeff, PLE.
Protein losing enteropathy.
Okay, so we've talked about that already too a bit. So Mitamax, holistic veterinarian, raw fresh food diet, probiotics, maybe fecal transplant. Those are always good. Oh, good, you got some suggestions on the chews. Lipomas, don't worry about. Lipomas are just a way of the body exteriorizing its imbalance. There are there's a veterinarian, Dr. Bob Ulbrich in Portland, Oregon, who has a vet working with him or at his practice named Keith, and I can't think of his last name. And he has an herbal product that he gives that he says he has success with lipomas, doing acupressure around the lipoma and on any of the acupressure meridians can help. But you want to be, there's nothing, just one thing. Feeding a fresh, usually they'll stay there, but they will slow down in their growth when they're getting all the things that we're talking about. An infected sore on the sulfa, on the vulva, gotu kola and turmeric and aloe is one. I wouldn't go for a cancer salve if you don't think that's what it is. Cancer salves are heavy duty. They're heavy duty to the body. And in homeopathy, we don't necessarily want to immediately get rid of bumps and lumps. We want the internal imbalance to be balanced, and then the lumps will naturally go away. So more you're looking for soothing things. I would just, infected sore, I'd be looking at calendula hypericum, aloe, many of the things we've already talked about. And also just to let people know, you will get a recording of this. And if at the end you go down to the bottom of the chat and click on the 3 buttons, it'll say save chat, and you have to do it at the very end. And then you'll have the chat because, as I said, a lot of our members have responded well on that. And in terms of Elena, definitely the licking of the feet is probably secondary to the being reactive. I would look at Webb, whole energy body balance. One of our seminars was on that. And he also spoke on All Paws Pet Talk TV, which has many of our speakers, since I'm sort of helping people, I suggest them going back and forth. And Ed Basingwaith has created this whole energy body balance, particularly to deal with anxiety issues. And he does consulting for that as well. So that's well worth a listen to. Luann, you find Holistic Vets by going to holisticactions.com/select, and you'll find that in here. And that was also that was Luann. I don't know about Gretchen, good answer. Wonderful website there. Again, thank you all for everybody chipping in with things. Julia, what percentage of meat? You know, definitely not a dry kibble. Switch to a fresh raw food diet. And the key thing about diet is what's the right diet for a person to eat? What percentage of meat should I be eating? None? What percentage of, maybe not. I have a friend who is finally healthy after becoming keto, and she's been healthy for 5 years, and she wasn't on any diet before that. I do know a very, few animals do well on higher on the vegetable side, and others seem to be doing okay now on a more vegetarian diet when it's really done right. But in general, dogs and cats, particularly cats, need meat. And it doesn't matter if it's 100%, 90%, 80%, 70%, 60%. You have to find out for your animal. Eggs, dairy, fish, all of these wonderful things. Think about what they eat in the wild. Think about what their anatomy is, and you'll find all of that in the 101 basic health class. Whew. I think we actually got through this. By golly, I saw 37 and I thought I wasn't ever going to get there. Let's see. Oh, you've tried. So Kim says she's tried all of those. So Kim, I would go to the select page. I'd read the whole article. I'd look for somebody that's within driving distance to take a look at that. And I would also have a homeopathic vet to work with you by phone if there's not one close to you. That's really important. I wouldn't be going right away, and do all the other things that Dr. Jeff and I and Gail were talking about. Okay, Gail, want to say goodbye?
I'd love to say thank you to you first. I don't know how you do it. Wow, I'm bowled over. That's incredible. Thank you, everybody, for having me. I really enjoyed being here today. And end of life questions, maybe I'll come again sometime and we can do an end of life session with some interesting questions and thoughts.
Have to have you on. Yeah, we'd have to schedule that, wouldn't we? Dr. Jeff will figure that out.
For sure. So
Maybe we'll do an addition in addition to the Q&A. Don't forget, click the 3 buttons and save the chat if you want to save the chat.
and thank you all for coming today, coming anytime this year. We really, really, really appreciate your time and attention, and we'll look forward to seeing you in 2024.
Happy New Year.
Thanks. Thank you.
Can't find the 3 buttons. Where are they?
They're in the chat.